Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something powerful. Why is it that so many men who can handle the weight of the world, who can build empires, who can face battles in silence, only truly crave one thing from a woman? Love, because deep down, no matter how strong or independent a man appears, the one place he wants to be vulnerable, the one place he wants to be fully seen, is in the arms of the woman he loves. The world teaches him to fight, to compete, to win. But in love, he wants peace, softness, understanding. He wants a woman's love not because he is weak without it, but because it gives meaning to all his strength. Men crave love above all else, because love becomes the foundation that softens even the hardest edges of life. No matter how accomplished or powerful a man might be, the desire for love sits at the core of his being, shaping the way he connects, the way he dreams, and the way he defines his sense of worth. When you choose yourself, you understand that craving love does not make someone weak. It highlights the deepest human truth, that at our core, we long for connection. Men often pursue success, wealth, or recognition, believing these things will give them fulfillment. But when the noise of the outside world fades, what remains is the yearning for love. That is why, beyond any external achievement, love stands as the most essential desire. When you choose yourself, you realize that craving love is not about needing someone else to complete you, but about recognizing that love is what gives meaning to life's journey. For men, the craving often shows up in subtle ways. A man might act strong, detached, or independent, but underneath those layers, the need for love drives his actions and decisions. He may push himself harder at work, hoping admiration will translate into affection. He may chase status, hoping that being seen as worthy in society will finally grant him the love he longs for. Yet the truth is that none of those external accomplishments replace the fulfillment of being deeply loved. Love is the one reward that no amount of effort can manufacture. When you choose yourself, you see that love is not about dependency, but about authenticity. Men crave love because in love they find the space to be their truest selves. In every other area of life, men are expected to perform, to achieve, to lead, to stay in control. But in love, they seek to drop the weight of expectation. They want to be seen not as the provider, the competitor, or the strong one, but as the human being beneath all of it. Love becomes the safe space where their vulnerability is not only allowed but embraced. That is why, no matter how much external validation they receive, it will never compare to the intimacy of genuine love. When you choose yourself, you recognize that craving love is about seeking more than comfort. It is about longing for a place of peace. Men do not just want someone to admire them, they want someone to truly understand them. The power of love lies in its ability to offer healing. For a man who fights battles in silence, who faces pressures unseen by the world, love becomes the one source that restores him. The softness of love balances the hardness of struggle. The gentleness of love repairs what stress has broken. Without it, life feels incomplete, no matter how many achievements fill the shelves. When you choose yourself, you understand that men crave love above all else, because love creates the legacy no accomplishment can match. A man may be remembered for what he builds, but he is defined by whom he loves, and who loves him in return. Wealth fades, recognition shifts, but the memory of love outlasts everything. This craving is not selfish, it is deeply human. It is the same force that motivates, inspires, and keeps men striving forward. What they truly want is not the world's applause, but the quiet certainty that someone cares for their heart. When you choose yourself, you see that love above all else is not a weakness, but a reminder of what truly matters. Men crave love because in love they find home, peace, and purpose. It is the one thing that makes the struggles worthwhile, the victories meaningful, and the journey complete. Love is different from respect or admiration, because while respect acknowledges ability and admiration celebrates achievement, love sees beyond all of that into the very core of a person. Respect may come from what you can do, admiration may come from what you have accomplished, but love comes from who you are when everything else is stripped away. When you choose yourself, you understand that respect and admiration can be earned through effort, but love cannot be demanded, nor can it be manufactured by success. Love is a gift freely given, and it holds a power that recognition alone will never equal. When you choose yourself, you realize that respect often exists in professional or social spaces. A man can be respected in his workplace, admired in his community, or acknowledged by his peers for his strength and abilities. But that kind of recognition is conditional. It depends on performance, outcomes, and consistency. The moment you stop performing at the same level, the respect and admiration may shift or even disappear. Love, however, remains untouched by external standards. True love does not vanish when you stumble, fail, or fall short. It stays steady, offering acceptance not for what you do, but for who you are. That is why love is different. It is not tied to external validation, but to genuine connection. When you choose yourself, you begin to see that admiration often creates distance rather than closeness. To admire someone is to place them on a pedestal, to view them as exceptional, but often from afar. Admiration can inspire, but it does not always build intimacy. Love, on the other hand, invites closeness. It sees flaws without judgment, it embraces imperfections without hesitation, and it allows someone to be seen fully rather than through the lens of performance. A man may be admired for his achievements, but what he craves is love, the one thing that lets him be vulnerable without fear of losing his worth. When you choose yourself, you recognize that love provides something respect and admiration cannot. Safety. Respect might make you feel valued, admiration might make you feel noticed, but love makes you feel safe enough to reveal your true self. It is in love that masks fall away. It is in love that silence becomes comforting rather than empty. It is in love that strength is not required to prove value. This is why so many people, despite having admiration from thousands, still feel lonely, because admiration cannot fill the place that only love can occupy. When you choose yourself, you understand that respect and admiration often exist in the public eye, while love exists in the private spaces of the heart. Respect is about reputation, admiration is about image, but love is about intimacy. It does not require an audience, it does not seek applause, and it does not fade when the spotlight shifts. Love lives in the quiet moments, when someone listens to your unspoken words, when they notice the details others overlook, when they choose you not for what you display, but for who you are in your quietest hours. When you choose yourself, you see that love is different because it has the power to heal. Respect and admiration might motivate you to work harder, achieve more, or stand taller, but love gives you the strength to keep going when motivation fails. Love whispers that you are enough even when you feel broken. Love offers belonging when the world makes you feel like an outsider. Love says you matter as you are, and not you matter as long as you succeed. That difference is profound. It is why so many long for love even after gaining success, admiration, and respect. They realize that what they truly wanted all along was connection, not applause. When you choose yourself, you claim the truth that love cannot be substituted by recognition. Respect and admiration may be beautiful, but they are not enough. Love is what makes the human heart feel alive. It is what turns success into joy, what makes achievements worth celebrating, and what gives life meaning beyond accolades. Love is different because it is not conditional, not transactional, and not dependent on what you can provide. It is freely given, deeply felt, and irreplaceable. Love is where men can be vulnerable because in every other area of life they are conditioned to be strong, to perform, and to hold themselves together no matter what battles they face. From a young age, men are taught to hide their fears, suppress their tears, and carry the weight of responsibility without complaint. Society rewards them for composure, resilience, and stoicism, but beneath all of that strength lies a longing for a space where they can finally let go. When you choose yourself, you recognize that love provides this sacred space. It is the one place where a man can lay down his armor, release his burdens, and show the parts of himself that the world never allows him to reveal. When you choose yourself, you begin to understand that vulnerability is not weakness but courage. Men may appear unshakable on the outside, but inside they carry doubts, insecurities, and scars just like anyone else. Love becomes the only environment where they feel safe enough to reveal these truths. In love, a man wants to show his raw emotions without judgment, to express his fears without shame, and to share his dreams without fear of ridicule. Vulnerability requires trust, and love is the bond that builds that trust. Without love, vulnerability feels dangerous, but within love, it becomes the deepest form of connection. When you choose yourself, you see that men often hide their struggles not because they lack emotion, but because they fear being misunderstood. Love offers the opposite. It becomes the place where understanding replaces judgment. When a man feels loved, he no longer has to pretend that he has everything under control. He can admit when he is tired, when he feels uncertain, or when he feels broken. Love becomes the environment that says, "You do not have to be perfect here. You do not have to be invincible here. You can simply be human." This acceptance is what makes love distinct from every other form of validation. When you choose yourself, you realize that vulnerability is the key to intimacy. A man may receive admiration for his accomplishments, but admiration does not touch the parts of him that need healing. Love, however, reaches beyond the surface into the depths of his soul. When he feels safe to be vulnerable, true intimacy is created. This intimacy is not about physical closeness alone, but about emotional nakedness, where two people can see each other fully and still choose each other completely. That is why love is so powerful. It does not just celebrate strengths, it embraces flaws. It allows a man to feel accepted for all that he is, not just for the image he presents. When you choose yourself, you understand that vulnerability in love transforms a man's perspective of strength. In the outside world, strength is measured by control, success, and resilience. But in love, strength is redefined as the ability to be open, to be honest, and to risk being seen completely. Vulnerability in love does not diminish him. It expands him. It allows him to access tenderness, compassion, and connection in ways he cannot experience elsewhere. Love gives him permission to be whole rather than divided between the mask he shows and the truth he hides. When you choose yourself, you begin to see that men crave love because it is the only place they can be vulnerable without fear of rejection. Vulnerability is where healing begins, and love provides the safe soil where this healing can grow. Respect and admiration may sustain his pride, but love sustains his soul. A man can face the world with courage when he knows he has a place where he can fall apart without losing acceptance. That place is love, and that is why vulnerability within love becomes not only desirable, but essential. When you choose yourself, you recognize that love is where men can finally stop performing and simply be. It is where they can exchange fear for trust, loneliness for connection, and pressure for peace. Love gives them the freedom to open their hearts without shame, and in that freedom, they discover the truest form of strength, and man's true healing comes from love, because love has the unique ability to reach the places within him that success, recognition, or even personal willpower cannot touch. Men are often conditioned to believe they must carry their struggles alone, hide their pain, and bury their wounds under strength and achievement. Yet no matter how much they build or how far they climb, there are parts of the heart that cannot be repaired by effort alone. When you choose yourself, you begin to see that healing does not come from external victories, but from the warmth of love that offers safety, acceptance, and belonging. Love is what softens the scars, restores hope, and breathes life back into places that felt broken beyond repair. When you choose yourself, you recognize that pain does not disappear simply because it is hidden. Many men walk through life carrying invisible wounds, disappointments, failures, betrayals, or the weight of unmet expectations. These wounds may not show on the surface, but they affect the way he trusts, the way he loves, and the way he sees himself. Love provides a kind of medicine that no external validation can give. In love, he is reminded that he is more than his mistakes, more than his failures, and more than the moments when he felt unworthy. Healing begins the moment he experiences love that says, "You are enough as you are." When you choose yourself, you see that healing is not about fixing someone, but about giving them the environment where they can release the pain they have carried. Love offers that environment. It allows a man to feel seen without judgment, heard without interruption, and valued without condition. In this space, he begins to trust again, to hope again, and to open his heart in ways he once thought impossible. Healing does not happen through control or force. It happens through connection. Love is the connection that rebuilds what loneliness, pressure, and fear have torn down. When you choose yourself, you understand that true healing requires more than respect or admiration. Respect may acknowledge his strengths, and admiration may honor his achievements, but love touches the wounds that lie beneath those strengths. It speaks to the part of him that is tired of always being strong. It whispers to the part of him that longs to rest. Love heals because it says, "You do not have to be perfect here. You can let down your guard, and I will still be here." That kind of acceptance is not just comforting, it is transformational. When you choose yourself, you realize that healing through love also awakens his capacity to love in return. A man who has carried pain may find it difficult to trust or to give fully, but when love begins to heal him, he discovers new depth within himself. He learns that vulnerability is not dangerous but safe, that expressing emotions is not weakness but strength, and that connection is not something to fear but something to embrace. This shift allows him to move from merely surviving to truly living, from protecting his heart to sharing it. When you choose yourself, you see that a man's true healing comes not from someone fixing his brokenness, but from love reminding him that he was never beyond repair. Healing comes when he is met with compassion instead of criticism, with patience instead of pressure, with love instead of judgment. Love does not erase the past, but it gives him the courage to face it, the strength to release it, and the hope to move forward. It replaces bitterness with gratitude, fear with trust, and emptiness with fulfillment. When you choose yourself, you know that love has the power to transform pain into peace. A man's true healing comes from love because love restores what nothing else can, his sense of wholeness. It is love that teaches him he is more than his wounds, more than his battles, and more than his past. Love is not just what comforts him. It is what completes his journey of becoming whole again. Love gives meaning to strength, because strength without love becomes nothing more than endurance, a constant battle to survive without ever feeling the fullness of life. A man can lift heavy burdens, achieve incredible goals, and face adversity with determination. But if all of that strength is never connected to love, it often feels empty. When you choose yourself, you realize that strength alone can carry you far, but love is what makes the journey worthwhile. Love transforms strength from being about survival into being about purpose. It gives the struggles meaning, it turns victories into joy, and it makes the act of enduring challenges feel less like suffering and more like growth. When you choose yourself, you begin to see that strength is often displayed in the external world, while love is felt within. Men are celebrated for their resilience, their ability to provide, their willingness to push through pain. Yet beneath that celebration lies a quiet question. What is all of this strength for if there is no one to share it with? Love provides the answer. Strength exists not only to conquer obstacles, but to protect, nurture, and build a life with someone. Without love, strength can become a lonely performance. With love, strength becomes service, devotion, and connection. When you choose yourself, you recognize that love gives direction to strength. A man may push himself to work harder, achieve more, or become better, but the driving force behind those efforts is often love, the desire to create, to provide, to share. Strength for the sake of ego fades quickly, but strength fueled by love becomes lasting. Love motivates men to overcome challenges not only for themselves, but for the ones they care about. It adds purpose to sacrifice and turns effort into something more meaningful than personal achievement. Strength is the tool, but love is the reason that tool matters. When you choose yourself, you understand that strength without love can often lead to hardness. Men who live only through strength may become guarded, detached, and disconnected from their emotions. They may appear powerful, but inside they feel empty. Love softens that hardness and reminds them that strength is not just about endurance, but about the capacity to give. Love invites strength to serve something greater than pride. It asks strength to protect not just oneself, but the bond between hearts. It allows strength to expand beyond the self and into something much deeper, the ability to sustain a connection that truly matters. When you choose yourself, you see that love also redefines strength. In the world, strength is often measured by how much someone can carry or how much pressure they can withstand. But in love, strength is measured by the willingness to be vulnerable, to listen, to compromise, and to remain steady through challenges. Love transforms the meaning of strength from control to compassion, from dominance to devotion. True strength is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to show up even when fear exists, and love is what gives that kind of courage its foundation. When you choose yourself, you realize that strength finds its deepest fulfillment in love. A man may win battles, achieve success, or earn respect, but what he treasures most is using his strength to love and be loved. The long nights of effort, the sacrifices, the struggles, all of them gain value when they are tied to love. Love makes strength human, reminding him that power without heart is empty. Strength may build a house, but love makes it a home. Strength may win respect, but love creates belonging. Strength may achieve goals, but love creates memories that last beyond achievement. When you choose yourself, you understand that love gives meaning to strength because love is the reason we endure, the reason we sacrifice, and the reason we keep going when everything feels heavy. Without love, strength becomes a burden. With love, strength becomes a blessing. It is love that turns strength into service, that transforms struggle into purpose, and that makes every sacrifice worth it. Strength alone may build walls, but love gives the courage to open doors. Strength alone may win battles, but love ensures there is something worth fighting for. Love is irreplaceable because nothing else in life can take its place or offer the same depth of fulfillment. Success, admiration, wealth, and achievements can all provide moments of satisfaction, but none of them create the same sense of connection that love does. When you choose yourself, you understand that everything else in life can be substituted, but love cannot. You can replace possessions, change careers, rebuild status, and earn recognition again. But the experience of being loved genuinely and deeply is unique. Love is not something that can be traded for or replicated by any external achievement, and that is why it remains the one treasure that stands above all else. When you choose yourself, you recognize that people often chase substitutes for love, validation from others, accomplishments, material comfort. But no matter how much they gain, there is always an emptiness when love is missing. This is because love is not about what you achieve, it is about how you connect. It is about being seen, valued, and understood in ways nothing else can provide. A man can fill his life with respect and admiration, but without love, he eventually realizes that those things are temporary. Respect fades with time, admiration shifts with changing trends, but love endures because it is not built on conditions. It is built on connection. When you choose yourself, you begin to see that love holds a kind of permanence that no other pursuit can offer. Accomplishments can be celebrated today and forgotten tomorrow. Possessions can be gained and lost, but the memory of love lasts far beyond circumstances. The love you give and the love you receive becomes part of your identity, shaping the way you see yourself and the way you see the world. This is why even after decades, people still remember how they were loved or how they loved someone else. It leaves an imprint that nothing else can erase. When you choose yourself, you understand that love cannot be manufactured or bought. Wealth may bring comfort, status may bring recognition, but love comes freely or not at all. It cannot be demanded, it cannot be forced, and it cannot be replaced once lost. This is what makes love so irreplaceable. It is rare, it is fragile, and yet it is the most powerful force that shapes human lives. You may try to fill the void with other pursuits, but love is the one thing that satisfies the heart's deepest longing. When you choose yourself, you realize that love's irreplaceability lies in its ability to create true belonging. A man can be respected in his career, admired in his community, and acknowledged by society, but none of these give him the sense of home that love does. Love says, you belong not because of what you do, but because of who you are. That belonging cannot be substituted by applause or replaced by recognition. It is a deep-rooted sense of safety and acceptance that no other achievement can replicate. When you choose yourself, you see that the irreplaceable nature of love also makes it the greatest gift you can give or receive. It is not measured in grand gestures or material offerings, but in presence, understanding, and devotion. Love is irreplaceable because it cannot be imitated by anything else. Admiration can inspire, respect can motivate, but only love can heal, nurture, and complete. It is the foundation upon which everything else becomes meaningful. Without love, even the greatest accomplishments feel hollow. With love, even the smallest moments feel priceless. When you choose yourself, you know that love is irreplaceable because it endures beyond time, beyond possessions, and beyond circumstances. It is the one thing that makes all other pursuits worthwhile. A man may gain the world, but without love he feels empty. With love, he can lose everything else and still feel fulfilled. That is why love is not just another desire. It is the desire that stands above all others, the one that cannot be exchanged, substituted, or forgotten.